Hello everyone and welcome to this week's edition of the Neutral Zone. I'm Victoria Rutigliano and we have quite the week for you in Quinnipiac hockey. There were 5 games played since the last episode aired, so let's jump right into it with men's ice hockey. They hosted UConn last week, went on to win that game 5-2 with 5 different Bobcats scoring, including first-time goals from both Brogan Rafferty and Connor Clifton this season. But the biggest story of this game was Chase Prisky going down 8 minutes into the first period with a hit from behind. He came off the ice with blood coming out of his head, and he has not returned to the Bobcats roster since. Moving on, the Bobcats then traveled to Boston University to take on the Terriers, and they went on. That was a bit of an interesting game. They had 12 power plays and were unable to convert on any of them. They went on to lose that game 3-0 with the last goal coming off the empty net. And finally, the Bobcats had a chance to go back on the winning streak when they hosted UMass on Tuesday. They went on to win that game 3-2. They jumped out to an early 2-0 lead, but then the Minutemen were able to come back, tie the game up, and Tanner McMaster was able to seal the victory for the Bobcats with 7 minutes remaining in the third period to jump back to a winning streak. Let's now take a look at the polls. The USCHO polls were released on Monday. The Bobcats moved down in the polls from number 4 to number 6 after losing to BU this weekend. BU actually swapped spots with them, moved up 2 places in the polls, and it's kind of been a downward spiral for the polls for the Bobcats this season. But now I'm going to toss it over to Kirby Paulson and MJ Baird to do a touchscreen segment about the lack of a power play from the Bobcats and how the refs are reclaiming the rulebook. Guys?
Victoria, thank you. Yeah, I'm here with Kirby Paulson today. I'm MJ Baird. We're just going to break down a little bit of this unsuccessful Quinnipiac power play. But in order to do that, Kirby, we're going to start with the penalty kill. Let's get rolling.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about this penalty kill, and I think this has really been one of the more positive notes of this team thus far. They do a really good job of cutting down passing lanes, as you can see here. As you can see, you got Bobcats pinching down out in front of the net, but that's taking away that inner circle. That means that for these purposes, Northeastern had to take shots from the outside. We'll roll the rest of the clip here and take a look as we go forward as soon as I figure out how to use this touchscreen.
Right, Kirby, I've always noticed, in my year and a half or however many months it is here, I've noticed Quinnipiac's penalty kill likes to overextend. You can see Tim Clifton, he's selling out. You got 3 Bobcats over here and only 1 left in front of the net. Luckily, though, this team's incredible at blocking shots, so that when they overextend, they force pressure, and they are successful.
And this penalty kill is also mobile. Usually when these guys are not down trying to block shots, when they're up, they have the opportunity to go deep into those corners if there is a puck battle or spread back across the other side.
Take another look at, I believe, another penalty kill coming up next for you for the Bobcats. This one starts with a defensive zone face-off, though, and as you can see right out here, Scott Davidson, he just immediately rushes up to the defender. Some teams, Kirby, they like to play a strict box. Grand Packnell doesn't do that.
Yeah, no, this is something we saw last night. Unfortunately, again, you get a whole lot of bodies to the net, but you're still applying pressure. The more guys that you get moving around, kind of taking those passing lanes away and pushing them to the outside, the harder it's going to be to get some of those creative shots on net.
That's right. You see the Bobcats here in the 5-on-3, Kirby, but just to get to what is causing all these penalties and power plays and penalty kills, we have some penalties to break down for you. First of all, just tell our viewers, what is the difference this year in terms of penalties?
So this year, in the term that the league is sort of using is they're calling it reclaiming the rule book. And we can already see the frustration in so many coaches. A lot of what the idea is based around is stopping the restraint plays. So even the simplest of restraints, a simple hook, a simple trip. Usually some of them are more blatant than others, but even some of the more broad-ended holds are being called.
Right.
Again, they want to cut down on their strain. But something we saw, and we saw it up at Boston University the other day with over 60 combined penalty minutes, is they are calling everything. Some coaches are adapting to that well. BU head coach Dave Quinn said, you know what, our players are going to have to adapt to that, and they're going to have to do that, but the referees are also going to have to meet us halfway and do the same thing. Some coaches aren't really grasping onto that idea and are very frustrated.
That's right. After the game, Quinn actually said, the referees and the players, they're still trying to determine what a penalty is going to be this year. So we got a few clips of penalties, Kirby, that we picked out that, maybe wouldn't have been called in past years. So here's the first one, right here on the near side. This one's a little more evident because the UMass player does fall to the ground, taking down Tanner McMaster. But this one right here, this is one I think is really interesting. Bo Peeper is cutting to the net, and he just gets a couple sticks to the midsection, and they're going to call that. They call that a hook, and the Bobcats go to the power play.
Yeah, let's roll that one actually back and take a quick look at it. As you can see, he comes directly into the slot by the crease area, and that first stick comes up. Now, normally this wouldn't be called. Last year, we're going to see that one let go, but again, the minute that stick comes above off the ice,
Right.
when the defender stops moving his feet, that's when that hand's going to come up. And unfortunately, they're going to call that all season. This is something the teams are going to have to adapt to, is that extra stick contact.
That's right. When the stick comes parallel to the ice, it makes it an easier call for the official to call the hook or call the hold or what have you. Now here, this penalty, Kirby, comes off a face-off. And all teams do this. They have set face-off plays where they try to, gain an advantage. The key player right here you're going to want to watch, Scott Davidson. We'll roll the clip for you. Davidson tries to go after the puck, and right here, UMass does a good job, in my opinion, just trying to fight for some body position, but the referees call it, they call interference.
Yeah, again, it's using that body that they're not exactly keen on. They have no problem with you using the body, but the minute that extra contact where that stick gets hooked up inside there, that's when that call is going to come up, because again, the stick is coming parallel to the ice, and they're going to have that hand up immediately as soon as they see something like that, because it is a warning sign for those referees that are now being trained to look for things like that.
All right, Kirby, let's move on to the bulk of what we want to talk about here, and that is going to be the power play. I picked a couple clips just from last year. We can just talk over these ones. Just look at the way the Bobcats set up in the offensive zone. You're going to see it very familiar in just a couple more seconds when you see this year's power play. There's not much difference in the setup.
There really isn't any difference at all, and you're going to see this quite a bit. They like to have that guy out in front to get that screen, but here's the difference right now. Travis St. Dennis to Devontae to Sam Annis. Guess what three guys you don't have this year? Those three guys.
Those three players.
So there is a bit of a talent deficiency. All of a sudden, you don't have the superstars that are going to be able to move that puck well. As you can see here, it's the same general setup. Guys are going to head straight to the net and try to take shots from the outside to get some of those opportunities down low. But you're not going to see those blasts from the off-angle shots because of the talent deficiency.
That's right. We have a couple more power plays for you, but we'll just pop ahead to one more in particular. Kirby, if you don't mind, let me reach over, grab the pen here. I believe I have it now. So this one comes off a face-off. The Bobcats like to play out on the sides. You see it on both sides of the rink. They like to use the half wall, as Rand Peckville calls it. And you can see Sam Annis and Travis St. Dennis, Kirby, as you were saying, they were the ones who came up big in those situations last year. Now the Bobcats, they really just don't have those players this year. So I think they have the talent, but not necessarily the chemistry yet to be successful.
They have to find themselves. It's early. We'll see how this progresses throughout the season.
All right, Kirby, thank you for joining me. Victoria, back to you at the desk.
Thanks, guys. Great insight. The Bobcats have a bye week this week. They will not be playing, but when they do, they'll be starting ECAC play when they travel to Clarkson and St. Lawrence. We're going to take a break, but when we come back, I'm going to be joined by Matt McAuliffe to talk about the week that was in women's ice hockey.
The freshmen this year have stepped in and really just eliminated that problem, doing the right plays at the right time.
I mean, it certainly seems like an uphill battle for this team, but Tricia Fabi is one of the best coaches at this university.
The Bobcats hosting Arizona State. We'll start with this power play.
But she's strong. Good Lord, I saw her lifting one time. She could squat 3 of me. Like,
Oh, well, 7 of me then.
Good evening and welcome to Sports Pause.
In the end, we're here to win the championship this year.
Jess Fontaine now has that. She's going to take a ripper off the post, but she's going to come back.
And my number one, hold your applause, Bobcats fans, is Quinnipiac.
All right, Victoria, you know what time it is. It's top 5 plays of the week.
My favorite time. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Neutral Zone. I am now joined by women's ice hockey beat reporter Matt McAuliffe to talk about the weekend. Matt, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so let's first start out with the home and home series versus BC. I'm just going to wrap it up real quick. The Bobcats first traveled to Boston to take on BC and ended up tying the game 0-0. So we're going to start out with a little segment called Whiteboards. Matt, I'm going to talk about something, and you're going to write one word to describe what I'm discussing on your whiteboard.
Sure.
So, Matt, what would you say is your positive from the weekend?
My positive, okay. I'll try my best with my handwriting here, too. So I believe the positive from this weekend is, in fact, the offense. Now, they have very strong forwards, as I said last week, with Titi Sanfrano and Sam Miskevich, but they were held off the score sheet this weekend, but I do believe that they will come back hungrier than ever. And the offense was the strong suit, even though they didn't put up many
I
goals.
was going to say they only have 1 goal in the weekend.
I understand, and I understand that they did struggle this weekend, but it was a positive. The young defense couldn't really keep up with BC, so I have to give the offense the positive.
Okay, and then moving on to the opposite end of things, what would you say is your negative from the weekend?
My negative, yep, I'm going to have to go on the other side of the puck and say that the negative was, in fact, the defense. They're too young. They're young and they're inexperienced with collegiate hockey, and especially with ECAC hockey coming up, conference play. I'm very nervous in the fact that they can handle the pressure, because this weekend they played a top 10 team, and they could not handle it. BC was faster, better, stronger, and that is why in the second game, 4 goals were on the book, because the defense was outstanding, they were flat-footed, they were getting fully out from the net. So I believe that the defense really had a
Who would you name as your MVP of the weekend?
of the weekend.
Yes.
I'm going to have to go with the woman in between the pipes, with Sydney Rossman. Rossman was dominant in the first game. She faced 38 shots and saved every single one of them. And if you have a goalie that is saving 38 shots a game, you're going to get W's. Unfortunately, in game 1, it ended in a 0-0 tie, but Rossman kept them in the game, in the third period, in overtime. They were getting outstated, but Sydney Rossman was standing on her head. She kept the Bobcats in this game, and I expect her to step up in conference play and will continue to be dominant.
Okay, so then my last question for you, this is kind of a big one. One word to describe the team's future. They're starting ECAC play this weekend.
All right. I'm going with sunny. The future is sunny for this hockey team.
Okay.
With ECAC play coming up, Yale and Brown, they've only played 2 games apiece. They're 2-0, and only 2 games in the season. They don't have the loose legs and the chemistry that the Bobcats have now. So I feel that they will succeed this weekend. I think they will defeat Yale and Brown this weekend and get a 2-0 start in ECAC conference play. The future is most definitely sunny. The vibe around this team is most definitely positive. This team is relentless. They will not quit. Don't quit on the Bobcats just because of a rough weekend.
All right. So now we're going to talk about the Women's Ice Hockey USCHO poll, which was released. The women's hockey team dropped from number 3 to number 5 in the polls after not coming out on a win this weekend. Wisconsin holds on to the number 1 spot again. They've been in the number 1 spot since the preseason polls came out. So they are a powerhouse right now in the polls. They got every single vote for first place. But now let's move on to some questions I have for you.
Yeah.
So we're 8 games into the season, Matt. Again, ECAC play is right around the corner. So what have been your thoughts on non-conference play?
Non-conference play for the Bobcats have been a little bit above par. I think they're doing well, and I think that they definitely got what they needed. They got the prep work, they got the practice games. Well, not really practice games because they do count, but they got the experience. The chemistry is a lot more clicking than other teams like Yale and Brown who've only played 2 games. Since we're 8 games in, the chemistry and the vibes are a lot better than the Yale and Brown teams. So I definitely am satisfied with what the Bobcats, these women, have done in out-conference play.
Yeah, in non-conference games, they really help Cassie Turner to figure out who's clicking, who's going to play on a line together, whereas for these Ivy League teams, they don't get those chances.
They don't have the time to figure it out before they get hit with conference play.
Exactly. And then, who have been your top performers so far in non-conference play?
Top performers have definitely been TT Cianfrano and Sydney Rossman. Like I said, Sydney Rossman's been a brick wall. She's 3 shutouts, away from the program record. She's been dominant, and so has TT. TT knows how to put points on the board. She has continually shown that she can score goals and share the puck as well. So my 2 players of non-conference play are definitely TT Cianfrano and Sydney Rossman.
Definitely. I mean, Cianfrano leads the ECAC with goals right now. She has 6 goals in 8 games. That's pretty impressive for one person.
Dominant.
Yeah. And then finally, Again, 8 games in, conference play this weekend. What are your expectations? I know you said sunny before, but on a smaller scale.
So my expectations for this weekend in conference play is a 2-0 start in conference play. I think they will roll over Yale and Brown. I don't think they'll have any issues. But for Yale, I would definitely watch out for Taylor Marching. In these 2 games, she's got 2 goals and 3 assists, which is very impressive for just 2 games. You get 5 points in 2 games, you're off to a hot start. And for the Bobcats in that Yale game, watch out for TT Sanfrano. Like we said, 6 goals. She's been dominant. As for the Brown game, they're also 2-0, but I do think they roll over Brown. Watch out for Allie Rempe, though. She is a freshman. She's been dominant on offense, and with these 2 games, she's got 6 points, 2 goals, 4 assists. Emma Woods is also one to watch out for the Bobcats in that game. She's hungry for offense, and I can't wait.
All right, well, thank you for giving your input on that. And that is all we have today for the Neutral Zone. For everyone behind the scenes, Matt McAuliffe talking about women's ice hockey. I'm Victoria Rutigliano. Make sure to check out all of our posts and our articles on our website at www.q30television.com, and check us out on social media at Q30 Sports and at Q30 Television. For everyone in here, I'm Victoria Rutigliano. Have a great day.